Hello, this is Maren Dowie, and this is Metabolism to me. For centuries, body image has been an issue that has struck many people in their lives. Whether it comes down to their health or to their appearance, people all over the world have different expectations on how you should maintain yourself. The topic of body image usually strikes a particular chord in women. Doesn't matter your age or where you're from, women are constantly criticized for how they present themselves. The media plays into this, selling diet teas and waist contortion, all marketed to fit what is deemed as appropriate body for a woman. All you ever hear as a woman is, "You're getting big, you should eat less," or "You look so thin, you should eat more." And you can never enjoy what you eat without being a little self-conscious of those around you. As a kid, I was quite thin, being a picky eater, and as my peers started to grow into their bodies, I was a little behind. I always tried to fit in with the rest of girls my age, but would always be reminded that I was still so small and skinny. Then I grew into my height and age, and my weight started to come in more during high school. I started getting asked if I needed to be eating or why I was always around food. Being on both sides of the weight spectrum, I couldn't satisfy anyone. And when I would take matters into my own hand, I know now that what I was doing wasn't healthy at all. The word metabolism is thrown around all the time by doctors, the media, even people you know. Some people have fast metabolisms or a slow one, but I never really understood what they meant. When I began to seek information on how to maintain an ideal body, a lot of the videos I watched mention how you should drink apple cider vinegar or how to cut out carbohydrates from your diet. And as a teenager with little to no knowledge in nutrition other than no junk food every day, I took their advice on what they said. I started to decrease my portions and cut out anything that could hurt my physical appearance. I tried out a small keto diet for a while as I heard that cutting out carbs will help your figure. On top of that, I was trying to get into more physical activity, thinking that with my new eating habits and excessive exercise, my weight would just shred off. Over a few weeks, I noticed a few changes in my behavior. I usually woke up with low energy and very tired, and not the type of energy where you're like groggy in the morning and then you start to wake up. My fatigue would last the whole day. My attentiveness and alertness to the surroundings around me decreased. My overall cheerfulness feels like it was being drained. I wasn't happy, constantly needing to check the nutritional facts, ingredients of everything I ate. I wasn't happy having to skip out on amazing and delicious food because it didn't fit what I was supposed to be eating. I hated the feeling of guilt I was consumed by if I didn't overexert myself while working out. I realized that what I was doing was hurting my physical appearance, but also my mental health as well. I finally put an end to this regimen that I was keeping up and just went on with eating what I liked in moderation. I still incorporated physical activity in my life by walking, and when I have work, I'm moving around a lot. It felt refreshing not having to calculate every move I made when I was eating. I love food, and it felt like it should be enjoyed, not dreaded, so stopping was the right choice. Once I started biology, I was introduced to a whole new style of learning. Every day we were breaking down another layer of understanding how the body works to perform a certain function, all working together to keep us alive. When approaching the metabolism unit, I was excited to get a more detailed and scientifically correct understanding of how my body functions and how I could potentially improve what I was doing in my day-to-day life. As many know, carbohydrates are a big hit or miss in the fitness world. Polysaccharides are most abundant in carbohydrates, which means they have thousands of monomers within them. Like many other saccharides, carbs are used for energy. Your body will take excess sugar or glucose that you eat and store it for a rainy day, as your body is always prepared for the worst case scenario. For example, if you no longer could get access to carbohydrates, your body would use what was stored away to make sure you have energy. The type of saccharide that would get stored is glycogen. Glycogen is thousands of alpha glucose in a chain that gets broken down into monosaccharides, glucose, when needed for energy. An issue of society, though, is that we overconsume everything. Everyone loves bread, rice, potatoes, and we tend to overeat them a lot. This is fine to a certain extent, but overeating leads to all that extra sugar being stored as fat in the adipose tissue, leading you to gaining weight. When learning about cellular respiration and the steps that occur to turn the glucose you consume and store into energy, my body's response while cutting food and attempting a keto diet began to make sense. When talking about the energy being made, transferred, or stored, it is referred as ATP. And to turn glucose into ATP, those glucose bonds must be broken down by enzymes. In the first step, glycolysis, glucose is converted into glucose 6-phosphate. There's a coupled reaction between the change where the enzyme breaks the ATP bond into an ADP bond as the glucose 6-phosphate acquires the lost phosphate on its 6th carbon. Another ATP bond is broken into ADP and it makes fructose 6-phosphate, which is just an isomer of glucose. ATP loses another phosphate to glucose 1,6-diphosphate since both the first and 6th carbon have a phosphate. That gets split into DHAP and G3P, but DHAP will quickly convert into G3P, leaving us with 2 molecules of G3P. An inorganic phosphate in H2O will come in to make 2BPG, where NAD plus is converted to NADH. This is a redox reaction because G3P was oxidized, giving up H, while NAD plus was reduced as it took H as another isomer. PEP is then made and ADP gets a phosphate to finish the glycolysis with 2 pyruvates and 4 ATP made since step 2 occurs twice. The importance of glycolysis is that it kicks off cellular respiration in your body. You need 2 pyruvates to move into the next step of pyruvate oxidation to make 2-acetyl coenzyme A, and to remove 2 CO2 molecules from our cellular respiration equation. This will take us into the Krebs cycle, where we are left with 2 oxyl acetates and 2 ATP gets made. We also make 4 CO2 for the equation. The final steps ends with the electron transport chain. All their steps play their role to lead to this, where high energy electrons move through different dehydrogenases and cytochromes to create an electrochemical gradient of protons so high that electrical energy can go through an ATP synthesis, turning it into mechanical energy. A turbine rotates and releases ATP. With this final step, all the molecules from the cellular respiration equation of C6H12O6 plus CO2 converted into C6O2 plus C6H2O plus 36 minus 38 ATP can be crossed out. Once I learned the concept of metabolism in biology class, I thought back to my own experiences. My constricted diet that allowed me no carbs was the reason why I was feeling so tired and had little energy. Without the correct amount of glucose in the carbs I should have been eating, I was starting the first step of glycolysis on a bad foot. Having no glucose stored from not consuming carbs in a certain amount of time left me with no glucose to start glycolysis effectively. All the glucose needed during glycolysis might have been fulfilled from my lack of intake. This makes the whole step of glycolysis weak, and only the rest of the steps of cellular respiration decreased from that. The weaker and weaker each step became, leaving less and less high energy electrons for the final step of the electron transport chain. Not having that high electrochemical gradient from the protons being pumped up each time the electron moved resulted in not enough energy for the ATP synthesis to convert the electrical energy into mechanical from the groove turbines to make ATP. The whole process of me eating fewer carbs in food and overexerting myself in work just resulted in less and less ATP being produced and my body using up any small amount of energy that I made. I learned that it's more beneficial to make sure that I'm always eating my carbs in moderation. It's always important to have energy in everything in life so that your body can be more stimulated. You want to be alert and awake and happy with yourself most of all. I finally feel after this class I no longer have to feel guilty about what I eat and how I perceive myself physically. Health doesn't come down to scale numbers and shape, but what you're eating and how you hold yourself define your real health. Thank you.